So what I want to take you through, I guess firstly, let's do a little bit of background. Context and chronology, why are we here? What are we here to talk about? I think we're all aware, as a result of Grenfell, about the Hackett review. I think most of you are aware that the CPA formed the Marketing Integrity Group 2 years ago. Very honoured to have been asked to chair that from the start. Many of you will have been amongst the 524 people that took the time to respond to our detailed call for evidence survey last year, which produced some phenomenal data. And as a result of all of that, where we are now is the Code for Construction Product Information, which has been pulled together by the team as a result of all of the work that's been done, is currently in final technical review and is very close to going live. And the timing of this this session is absolutely spot on. Our next stage is to run a public consultation, so we'll get the code out there and give everyone the opportunity to give us some feedback and input. We anticipate that the code will be launched sometime next year. I would like to think it could be launched in the spring. That's our goal. But as with all these things, we've got to get through the consultation and just check what we get back and make sure that everything is in the plan. So that's kind of where we are. I wanted to talk about really our why. Funny if I was doing another marketing piece recently and this Simon Sinek thing comes up, is why are we doing this? What's so important? And I think in terms of the Grenfell situation itself, there's an underlying consideration that says if everybody involved in the project had known intimately everything they should have known about all of the products they used, they probably wouldn't have used the products that they did. And so we as manufacturers are being challenged to provide construction product information which is accurate, accessible, up to date, clear and unambiguous. And those 5 things came out loud and clear in the survey from the users of construction product information. And really importantly, it's that information can be relied upon when the users of the information are making key decisions at whatever stage of the construction project that they're at. And I said in Q4 2018, so 2 years ago, the integrity of our industry, one which I've been in for almost 30 years and I believe wholeheartedly in, is going to be challenged, and the integrity of the industry will be demonstrated by how we respond to the challenge. So that's, if you like, a little bit of background. There's 2 things we need to, first, before going any further, the huge thank you to all of the people that have been involved. These are some of the companies that have been involved in the Marketing Integrity Group itself. My thanks to all of them, particularly thanks to Catherine Fife of Polypipe, who's been Deputy Chair, providing an enormous amount of help and support, and to the team at CPA, to Hannah, to Duncan, to Jeff, who've all been heavily involved, plus the CPA's Construction Technical Committee, who've been again, very, very helpful in helping this pull together. There's 2 things I really want to get across. The first one is, what do we mean by product information, and how and about how it's communicated? Because this is the whole thing. This is the whole piece. This is not just your literature, your brochures, not just your website. Any way in which we communicate information about a product is covered by this code. It doesn't matter if that's while you're giving a demonstration of a system, if it's while you're presenting, if it's through an email, as well as all the other things. We call that product information. And therefore, it will impact quite a wide audience and quite a wide set of media. But equally importantly, if not more so, is what do we mean by the manufacturer? Who is actually going to be responsible for this? And this is, again, really important, because I've highlighted some things here. This is our full manufacturer definition, and it reflects the old EU Blue Book definition. But it's the manufacturer who places a product on the market under their own name or trademark. So if a company in America is making a product for you and they're sending it over here and you put it out into the market in your name, you become the manufacturer, you become responsible for the construction product information. And this is really important. So we're starting to think about the merchant who own labels, Travis Perkins, B&Q, they're responsible. The manufacturer who gets product made for them overseas and brings it in under their own name. The import company who takes a product and sells it under their name. They're all responsible under the construction product information code. It's also about people who modify or change a construction-ready product. So something that's ready to go and you decide to change or tweak it, you then become the owner of the information around that product. So some really important definition in this manufacturer set as to who is actually involved. So the code itself, and I'm conscious this is a 20-minute talk, and so I'm just going to give you a kind of a whistle-stop tour. The principle of the code is to create a robust set of guidelines to make a level playing field of how organizations, how manufacturers should present information about their products in the market in order to create information that is accurate, up to date, unambiguous, clear, etc. And this code is there to give confidence that we do know what we're doing in our industry, that the information our industry does put out about its products can be relied upon, is dependable, and reinforcing the integrity that's so important to our manufacturing industry. So I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour through some of the key clauses and give you a little bit of a flavour of some of the detail. And the only reason I'm not going into more detail, A, time, but also because these details are going through technical review and the wording is being absolutely, as you would expect, being completely nailed on. So I just want to give you a flavour of the sorts of things that we're talking about here, most of which are common sense for any bona fide manufacturer who's not trying to, pull the wool a little bit. So starting at the beginning, any manufacturer who has signed up to the code should have in place a documented sign-off process. So what we're saying by that is it's known in their organization that you can't put new information out about a product without it having been through a certain process, and particularly that a technically competent person, known and named, has done a final sign-off, and that there's an audit trail for this, so that if some information comes out that's not right and it's challenged, it can be seen where that went wrong. This should be straightforward for most organizations to do. Really importantly, a formal version control process, because so many times the users are saying they were using information that they latterly found to be out of date. And there's got to be a way of having a formal version control process where we're aware that we have the latest document, it's referenced in some way, some unique identifier. That's something that all manufacturers need to have in place. One of the things that often gets missed out is information on handling or the operation or maintenance or installation of the product. We talk about the product performance statistics, characteristics in trying to sell the product, but we don't always make readily available this other information. And what we found, again, in context of Grenfell and context of the survey, is that companies who couldn't get hold of the information easily just went with their best instinct. And so they weren't getting hold of the information they needed in order to do things properly. Yes, information should be appropriate to audience type. So if you're selling boilers, you might have to register with your gas safe number to be able to access installation instructions. Of course, those things are important, but you must be able to get to the information that you might need in your environment, in your industry with that product easily. All straightforward so far. Hopefully there's nobody listening who's going, crikey, that's a bit much. This should be all straightforward information, but it does get a little bit tougher. Where an organization states compliance to or achievement of, a classification, a British standard or something like that, well, basically, you're going to have to be able to prove it. I think it's quite important that you can't just say tested to, or we've got this standard. You're going to have to be able to demonstrate that you do have that achievement, that you have got compliance to, etc. And there's a whole raft of information that will come out in the consultation that explain what's expected. And alongside that, and very similarly, if you're making a performance claim, you've got to provide verifiable information. Referencing back to dated test data or specified assessment, you've got to be able to show how you got to those performance claims. You've got to be clear about whether or not that was a calculated information or it was tested information. Was it on-site information? Was it laboratory information? All of those things have to be clear so that the user of the information understands how you got that. So show certainty, create reassurance. Physical characteristics, some of the basic information, size, dimensions, weight, you know, lots of information, physical characteristics about the product needs to be, again, easily accessible. Another area that was a concern came out of the surveys, warranty and guarantee information. Just making it clear, without getting all the detail there, but making it clear what's covered and what's excluded. It should just be obvious. We shouldn't be getting into that later on where that becomes a problem. And technical support. So again, this probably goes a little bit back to one of the clauses a little bit earlier. If you're struggling to get the information, we need the users to be able to easily connect to the technical people, be that a phone number, an email address, a chat, whatever it is. You need to easily find that your way around that. And we did some tests on some companies where you go 8-10 clicks in the website and you couldn't find any way to get hold of any more information. And again, people saying it's too much like hard work, couldn't be bothered, went with what I knew. It needs to be easy. They need to be able to get help and support when they're not sure. A big one, I guess. Ensure product information is consistent with the supply product. So what do I mean by that? Don't brass plate the golden sample, have that tested when you've got no intention of making to that standard on a daily basis. The product information you give out should be the product information relevant to what you make on a day-to-day basis. And if there are any changes in the factory, then there's got to be a process that enables that to be controlled back. This is a really big one. And will create a lot of change for marketeers, not to use misleading or ambiguous wording. And this is just one example of a list. There'll be some that will come out in the consultation. Yes, I've got the dog with me today, so she's making a little appearance here. So this is just an example. You know, you'll get somebody who says this product is fireproof. Well, fireproof doesn't actually mean anything, and it's misleading to somebody who doesn't understand that properly. Official terms need to be used, and that might be this product is non-combustible or it's class so-and-so. One of the areas of the work that's ongoing at the moment is the competency work. And the construction product information code is kind of the yin to the competencies yang. You can't be, you know, if you're going to use the information, you've got to be competent to use it. And if you're competent, you've got to have information that you can use because it's of the right caliber. So the two do go hand in hand. And one of the things that we felt maybe wasn't covered so much in the competence recommendations, but is relevant to us as a manufacturer, is that we have to make sure that all of our customer-facing staff are competent to give advice or discussion for the role that they have. And you know, we've got to take that on board. That's going to be really important because people will get asked questions in customer services at low levels in the organization. So it's important that we have a knowledge matrix for the role, that we understand the competence of the people, that we do that training and all of that kind of thing as well. So that's really, really important. So how might the code work? 5 minutes left, so a good opportunity just to take you through a little bit of this. What we see in this, again, is not cast completely in stone. We're at final stages of just organizing the relationship between ourselves and the arm's length organization that will be running the code. Is that a manufacturer will apply for the code, there'll be a registration and authorization process. It will not just be a tick box exercise, you'll have to be approved. Then you'll be on board, you'll be able to use the code's logo. There'll be regular audits, certainly at least an annual kind of BSI type detailed audit, and it will be managed by this arm's length organization that will expect to see various things from you on a regular basis. There'll be a fee, a subscription fee to be involved. The approved companies will be registered online and they'll be able to, as I say, use the logo. The complaints process, we've taken a stance that the Advertising Standards Authority use, which is a 3-tier process. So when they realize something is wrong, and that might be a whistleblower, that might be a user who identifies something that's not right, it might come through in an audit. The first stage is an arm around the shoulder of the manufacturer, work with them to resolve those challenges. If blatantly the manufacturer is ignoring that input or advice, then the second tier will be some kind of punitive action, which will be a suspension of the registration, that will go online on the website, etc., etc. But if it goes all the way through and we find that a manufacturer is blatantly in breach of their membership, it will go to a trading standards environment and be taken through in that stage. So This is serious. It's got to be done properly. It cannot be paid lip service to. And the organisation, the arm's length organisation that will run this, have substantial experience of this kind of environment. The other thing I wanted to say here is the code that you're going to see at the start is where we felt we could expect manufacturers at the very basic level to be able to get to very, very easily. But expect as the code is introduced and as it runs through time that this bar will be continually raised. The bar will continually, challenge. We would expect potentially an annual review, which will just add additional conditions and just really tighten up the way in which manufacturers provide product information. So this is a massive question. Do we have to do this? Is it voluntary? Government want to make it mandatory. They want to legislate. We've argued against that initially. And where we are is I think we're in a holding position. And I think it's like this. If we legislated, then we wouldn't get the opportunity to tweak, tidy up, learn, adapt, and improve the standard over time. And we would also get some time delays in getting to market with a legislated option. So our view is, and our discussions have been, that we will go with a voluntary option to start with, but expect at some point in time that this will become legislated and will become mandatory in a few years' time. What we're expecting is that government will say that all public sector projects have to use the code or have to use products that the manufacturer is signed up to the code. And we would expect a number of organizations in the supply chain, contractors, developers, consultants, to not work with manufacturers who are not signed up to the code, because how else do you rely on the information? So whilst it's a voluntary code, we would expect you're going to have to be in it to be in it. If you want to supply the industry, you're going to be expected to be registered to the Code for Construction Product Information. And I think this is really important just for everyone to get their heads around, say, don't think this is just voluntary, do I, don't I? You really do. And I would finish by saying, please don't wait to get your house in order. The consultation will be out shortly. Please read the code when that's launched. Make the changes to your organization now. I know the organization I run, Siderise, we're really good at this stuff. And I'm honored to be their MD because they do things properly. But we've had to make some changes in order to make sure that we are doing all of the things that the code requires. Accept and take on board that the things that the code is recommending, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for our industry. It's the right thing to do for the building safer environment in which we now operate. And by getting onto this page quickly, you'll be helping people that design, construct, manage, maintain buildings to do so with safer buildings. And your organization will run better because of it. And hopefully you'll be an early adopter, so that will be good. So it was a 20-minute talk. My clock's saying 19 minutes and 10 seconds. So thank you for listening. And yeah, I look forward to the Q&A.
Adam, thank you very much. Great presentation there, and we're looking forward to hearing more from you in the Q&A session in another 20 minutes time. I think key takeaway for me from there was some of the to-do list manufacturers to actually get their product information aligned, and not just the product information, but basically every bit of information surrounding their supply. So yeah, excellent. Thank you very much.